Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today on this webinar. I am here to help you learn how to grow your practice in a real quality way. And so let's just get started. So my name is Jessica Martin. I am the founder of Martin Management, and I'm here to talk with you today about simple steps to increase production. And as I mentioned, grow your practice in a very quality way. So what we're going to go through today are ways to increase patient retention, strategies to fill open chair time, and then ways to attract new patients. And all of these things feed into increased production. So that will be the end result. And I love this quote because it really does really emphasize the power of retention, and also once you have those patients, those new patients in your practice, really what the worth is on that. One customer well taken care of could be more valuable than $10,000 worth of advertising. So we do a lot to market our practices and to bring people in, but we need to know the value of how to keep them there and how to appreciate those patients when they're with us. So a little bit about my background and why I'm here to speak with you today. My background is actually in school psychology. So I hold a master's degree in school psychology and in school counseling. And so I spent a lot of my career really working with children that had special needs and that were struggling in the school setting. I've also worked as a director of special education, and just think psychology is in everything. So it's pretty neat that I'm able to bring that training into the dental world. I also co-own a practice called Martin Dental with my husband, and we've owned that practice for almost 9 years now. So that's really what kind of brought these two ideas together of the psychological components of dentistry and how we can do dentistry better, is being married to my husband and being married to a dentist. And Martin Management is just my way of sharing our success and strategies that have worked well for our office with other dental practices. So I just want to share a little bit about our dental practice to give you kind of a framework for how this can be helpful for your practice. So our practice, when we purchased it, was established, but it was really full of older patients, and unfortunately, patients were passing away quicker than we were growing new patients. So that was one of our issues initially, and it was a dated practice. We had to bring in a lot of the technology and new systems and things to really get it up to speed. We had very slow growth in the beginning. We did a lot of things that now we look back and kind of chuckle at, but we literally wrote out flyers or wrote out notes on note cards and like hand delivered them around the neighborhood where our practice is located. We had a lot of free time on our hands because we had some holes in the schedule, so we used the time for that. We attended a lot of expo events, and those are great, but obviously take a lot of time to prepare for and to be present at and that kind of thing. And all of the things that we did really just had limited traction. We did some marketing, but we kind of were just shooting money all over the place, not in a systemized way, and it just really didn't help us to grow as much as we were hoping. So one thing that we did always really focus on, though, was relationships. And so we knew that with relationships with our patients, if they were strong, they really built good trust and loyalty with our practice. So we had that going for us. And then as I got more involved in the practice about 5 years ago, we started really looking at how to create more value in what we were offering our patients. Because when you can create a real value for people, that can supersede any cost that there might be, which feeds into less insurance dependence. So if a patient has insurance that changes and they're no longer in network with your office, for example, if that value is there, they're more likely to stay. And when you decide to raise your fees, again, if that value is there, that patient is more likely to stay. And then even distance, when people move away and they relocate, sometimes that is the time where they choose a new provider. And again, if that value is there and they really, really love your office and what you're doing, we've got patients that travel up to 2 hours to see us. Even snowbirds that live, somewhere warm will travel back in the nicer months to Wisconsin to see us because that value is there. So what did we always do in regard to retention and working on those relationships? Well, we really focused on relationship building, and that was with our patients, with our community, and within networking. And I'm going to get deeper into those concepts. And then, like I said, we started also creating value as we determined that was needed as well. So in terms of relationships, what I recommend is hour-long comprehensive exams. And I know for a lot of offices um, that's a much longer new patient appointment than that they're used to. But this is really a place where you can build a lot of trust and rapport on the front end, and it really pays dividends on the back end as that patient becomes a lifelong patient. In this part of the appointment, it's really a time where the doctor's doing a lot of listening, really getting to know the patient and doing a really thorough medical history. And then from there, they move into hygiene. Usually we book an hour for that as well. And we really find that taking the time on the front end of this really sets that relationship up well. Handwritten notes are another thing that really has worked well for our practice. We have the doctor write a thank you note to each new patient, and then we also thank any patients that have given us referrals of their friends and family. And over the years, we've really made this more efficient. We've developed scripts for this, so the doctor doesn't have to think of what he's going to say each time he sits down to write a note. We've also created a script for the thank you for referrals, and we actually have an assistant write that note now because that patient's really already established with us, and we want that handwritten note there, but it doesn't necessarily need to come in the doctor's handwriting, we've realized, to be as effective. But we have so many great comments from patients saying, I have never received a handwritten anything from a doctor, and this is such a nice touch, and people really do love it. You know, it's not something that people do as much anymore, so a little thing that can go a long way in regard to relationship building. And then using communication software. So using something that makes it easy for the patient to stay in touch with your practice, to receive reminders about hygiene appointments that might be needed, to send the patient a birthday message, to send out newsletters, just to keep that communication going between your office and the patient and keep you top of mind. It really helps to establish that relationship. And it's funny because sometimes patients think we send the birthday messages directly from our practice, and we kind of chuckle because it's automated, of course, but they really feel like they were remembered and thought of, and so that goes a long way. And again, you can create some efficiencies for this, utilizing a specific company to handle your communication software. You don't have to something that you don't have to do on your own. You can hire a marketing person to do this for you, or you can set things up to be really automated and work well. With regard to the comprehensive exam, if the patient needs any x-rays, the assistant can do that part of things before the doctor even walks in, which can give the doctor an extra 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending on the x-rays that might be needed. So ways to really utilize doctor time well, but also get that relationship building piece in to the appointments. In regard to community involvement, we've always in our practice really worked to participate in organizations that give back to the community. We get asked a lot about different sponsorships and donations and things, as I'm sure you do as well. And it's hard to really spread that money everywhere, of course, but we really try to be systematic about where we spend those dollars, and make sure that our target market is sort of in that demographic. So typically it's females, 29 and up is probably what I would say is our target market for dentistry. Those are the decision makers in the households. And so, moms events, different organizations that involve families and children can really be a good place to get your name out there and spend that money. And then also if a patient has something that's really important to them, or their child participates in something, we're more inclined to be a part of that, because that really means a lot to the patient that we're supporting them in that way. Social media, of course, this could be a whole separate topic, a webinar, but with social media, we definitely are cognizant of being active on social media, and we are not afraid to share bits about ourselves on social media. We notice that the most engaging posts that we do are those posts that include pictures of our team, pictures of our family, just little things that help patients feel connected to us as people. So we're not afraid to let patients into our lives, and that really works well for us. And again, there are efficiencies that you can create with these concepts. You can delegate some of the community involvement things out to your team. You can hire a marketing company, which we do as well, to handle our social media presence, and in ways that, again, your office doesn't necessarily need to be doing these activities that are going to help build these relationships with patients. And then networking has been a really a large piece of getting out there in our community and having to actually spend less marketing dollars to be known in the community and get more of those referrals. I like to think of networking as word of mouth on steroids. Really, it's a way to get to know like-minded people that also have small businesses, that also want to see other small businesses grow. Helping one another helps everybody. So in the bottom picture, that's a group that I'm involved in called Business Networking International, or BNI. And, you know, there's a person from so many different trades in there. There's a plumber, there's an electrician, there's a fitness coach, there's a banker, there's a promotional products guy, you know. So when I have a need that comes up for me personally or for my business, or if I know of a patient or a friend or family member that has that need, I have this, you know, network of people that I know, like, and trust, that I can go to say, hey, you know, call this person. And then when that person gets that sale, they then want to return the favor and help me grow my business and refer patients to me and become patients and that kind of thing. So it really snowballs quickly and is really great. Polka Dot Powerhouse is another organization that I find has been really great for networking. And there aren't a lot of dentists that are in this group. Both of these organizations are actually worldwide. So no matter where your practice is located, you can probably find a chapter in your area or your vicinity. So the top right picture shows a picture of some of the Polka Dot Powerhouse ladies that I'm in the group with. This is a ladies connection company. So if you're a male dentist, you probably need to find someone that can do this for you. But it's, again, a way to really just get the word out about what you're doing and have other people help you to grow the business. And that's, again, a way to create some efficiency, is to delegate these roles out to people. Maybe they're a team member of yours that's really into being social and really loves to get to know people. That's a great person to put in this role. Or even just a family member or friend that you trust to represent your business could be a great fit for these types of opportunities. I also really believe that relationships are a team approach. And so the values and the culture that you establish within your practice has to be carried out through your team, because so much of the time patients are interacting with your team. And if your team doesn't have that same feeling about, you know, focusing on that patient relationship and building that, it's not going to feel connected and cohesive, and it's going to feel fake. So you just need to make sure that everyone on your team understands that their main goal is to connect with patients and really establish those relationships and make the patient feel cared for and understood, because solid relationships really truly do build trust and loyalty. And likewise, your relationship with your team really matters, and the cohesiveness of your team makes an impact on the experience of the patient. So if a patient can walk into your practice and people are, you know, at odds with one another on your team, and they're not getting along, or people aren't communicating, that patients can feel that. And so that's not the type of energy that keeps people coming back to your office. So you really want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. And in order to do this, you can do bonding activities that can really help build those relationships that your team has outside of work. And that can be a great way to get that cohesiveness in. And another great way is to do some morning meetings, which I know a lot of consultants recommend. Morning meetings really just help set the tone of the day, get people on the same page, and, you know, really look for any issues there might be in the schedule or with a particular patient, so that everyone's on the feeling the same way about going into the day positively. These are just some examples of things that we've done with our team. We volunteer at a food shelter together. You know, we've gone bowling, we take fun pictures, we go boat riding, just fun ways to like each other, because we spend a lot of time together. If you don't like the people you're with, then it really makes work kind of a drag. So our relationship's enough. I really believe we're in a new set of times where consumerism is just different. There's less loyalty. People have greater expectations about what their experience should be like. You know, everyone's an expert, so they can just go on Google and find an answer. It might not be right, but they'll look probably. And people are just more savvy about their options in general. We're just able to find more information on the internet. You know, we can look at our different providers' websites. We can check out our providers on social media, and we can get a feel for how an office might run just by searching about them. So there's a lot more competition out there in terms of people knowing what other offices are doing and maybe being drawn to something that they're doing. So I really truly think, unfortunately, that the days are gone when someone's just goes to a dentist because that's where they've always gone. You still have some of those people, but you're going to see that continue to shift. And so that's why we need to continue to evolve and get better. And something to think about with regard to how to keep patients and patient acquisition in general is that what attracts a patient to you initially will have an impact on how you keep them. So what I want to talk to you today about is the top three examples there is if a patient comes to you as a friend or an acquaintance, if they were referred from a trusted individual, or if they came to you because of an experience that you can offer, those are great ways to keep a patient. If the patient comes to you because of insurance, that you're in network with them, or their insurance, said that you're on their list, whatever it is, that's harder to keep. Their policy likely will change over time. And so now they're going to be drawn to that next provider that's on the list. Or your office is where they've always gone. As I just said, that's less likely to keep people loyal. And then the last one is if you've offered a new patient discount or promotion, again, that patient's harder to keep because if that's what attracted them to you, the next promotion that comes up that could beat what you're doing is going to attract them as well. So if you can attract people in the first three ways, you're going to have more retention in general and loyalty. So creating value. This is a large part of this because you can only do so much in regard to relationships, right? The relationship can be really solid, but what else can we do to help patients be attracted to us and stay with us? So patient advocacy, be insurance friendly. You don't need to be in network with any insurance companies to be insurance friendly. Have your staff, obtain breakdown of benefits on behalf of patients because they don't know what any of that means oftentimes. If they're concerned about cost, do pre-authorizations, go through that extra step and schedule them out a ways so that there are no surprises about what things will cost. Just make insurance easy for the patient. We don't like sitting on hold for 20, 30 minutes with an insurance company to ask a specific question. The patient doesn't even know what to ask when they get the person. So, to send them on a wild goose chase about what's covered and what's not and that kind of thing, I just think sets them up to be frustrated. So we typically know insurance better than the patients because their policy is always changing. So even if they're very savvy, it's hard to keep up with. So if we can keep on top of that and be kind of their advocate, they're not going to feel like as ready to leave and go somewhere else because your office really has a good handle on their insurance if that's important to them. This should go without saying, of course, but I'm under the assumption that you want to do great dentistry, that you're trying your best to be gentle, you're doing things that are going to last over time, you're going to stand behind your work, and you're just going to be a kind and caring provider. I mean, hopefully those are basic things, right? But this is what I love, is that we can raise the standard of care and create a really exceptional dental experience with just some little things. So what this does is it really creates hype for your practice, and that really can spin off into organic marketing. People start talking about it, and you don't really need to do a lot once it gets going to really get the word out there because it's a novel thing. And that this really can secure loyalty even when financial circumstances change because it's different. Not a lot of people are doing it. You're giving that wow factor. So this is my mission. I know we can do better for patients, and that also helps our businesses grow. So it's really just a win-win. And also I'm going to dive further into those strategies here. So why should we worry about creating a better dental experience? Well, as a psychologist myself, I had, wanted to find out more about dental anxiety because as I started networking and talking to more people about our office and what we were doing, time after time, I had people tell me, oh, I really don't like going to the dentist. My dentist is a great person, but I really I get nervous about going. And psychologists have truly not found a way to quantify how significant dental anxiety is. And they've come up with all of these scales and surveys and inventories, which remind me of my school psychology days because that was the meat of what I did to try to measure it, but they still don't really know. Most of the statistics I've seen is of 60% or even more if people really dislike dentistry. So we're working against the grain here, but we can do something about that, which is awesome. So here's the dental fear cycle that I think is important to understand. And we start over on the left-hand side of this. So typically what happens is people have a negative oral health experience. So maybe it's something from childhood, maybe something hurt a procedure even into adulthood, or maybe there's just something about the experience that just is really off-putting, and we're going to get further into that. So it creates this negative experience that people don't like. So that creates for some people, a large amount of anxiety, and for a lot of people, enough anxiety that they're kind of like, I really am not looking forward to going back. So what happens then is they avoid getting their oral care taken care of, which then results in problems, right? They have poor oral health, and now they get to a point that they put it off so long that they have to come back in. They have an abscess, something's going on, they're in pain. So now they're back in, but they haven't been in for a while because they've been putting it off. And now the procedure that they need probably is more invasive, and it probably costs more money than maintenance because they've put it off. And so it just really creates this cycle where they just keep spinning and never really get off the train, if you will. So that's what we're going to work on. And this is where dentistry and psychology collide. So we have to think about, why do people hate going to the dentist? Well, a lot of people have childhood traumas. Dentistry wasn't always as gentle. People are often afraid of it hurting, right? I mean, no one wants to pay to be in pain. It's kind of an oxymoron there. You don't want to, it doesn't make sense. So there's that. And then there's a lot of vulnerability in a patient sitting in your chair. There's a lack of control that really puts them in a state of uneasiness. And then the attack on the sensory system. And I'm going to dive further into that here in a minute. So there's a lot of reasons people don't like going to the dentist. It's helpful for you to know why, and your team to know why, so you can work around why someone maybe doesn't like being there. Just in that in itself helps the patient feel understood as well. So let's talk about the sensory system. We all know the five main senses: smell, sight, touch, hearing, and taste. When these senses are assaulted, they literally send messages to our brain, which help us form judgments about the experience being good or bad. In my work in school psychology, what I realized about the dislike of dentistry is that's largely about the sensory system. We all have different sensory tolerances. So some people really are just adamant about having clean hands. They don't feel good unless their hands are clean. Some people like to start or end the day with a shower. Their body just doesn't feel right if they don't do that thing. And a lot of people dislike certain sounds. Common ones are nails on a chalkboard or a baby crying. Those things just really irritate people. So everyone has different tolerances for these types of examples. But most people dislike a lot of the things that we do in dentistry. Dentistry really truly assaults the sensory system from almost every angle. And we do this without meaning to. It's just part of what we do. So I'm going to give you some examples. So the smell of a dental office. I can remember before I was at our practice a fair amount, I would come just to visit, and I would walk in and I'd get this kind of wall of, I don't know, it was just anesthetic or just the smell of teeth or what it was, but it was just wall of dentistry. And it always was off-putting to me personally. And I'm not very sensitive to scent. We don't really notice it as clinicians and as people that are there every single day because we get used to it. But for patients that just come every so often, there's definitely a smell to dentistry. The noises of the drill, the suction, the ultrasonic cleaning, the sight of dental instruments, the needles, the clutter, the clinical looking environment can just be off-putting, especially for children. Touch, people don't want that pain. They feel vulnerable. We're maybe not even asking their consent before we're moving that chair back into the laid back position. So there's things with touch there that are off-putting. Tastes, there's definitely unpleasant topicals and prophy pastes and things that we put in their mouths that don't taste very good. A lot of people dislike the numb feeling or have tooth sensitivities. And then for kids especially, there's a lot of textures that are off-putting. The lights tend to be a little more jarring for kids. They're more sensitive to that. I mean, a lot of the clinical staff are wearing masks. That can be kind of scary for little kids. And there's a lot of different noises. They don't know where they're coming from or why they're there. So there's a lot of, these are just a few examples, but there's a lot of ways that just the typical dental experience is wreaking havoc on that sensory system. So this is where I came up with the idea of the dental spa. And you might have heard of offices calling themselves a dental spa or, connected to a med spa or whatever. And so I hesitate to almost use the word spa, but I'll get into why I do that. So anyway, the dental spa is a way that you can make a difference on the sensory system with that patient experience. And so a few of the examples I have shown here are on the left, an amenities checklist that the patient can choose from. All of those are designed to calm the nervous system. The middle picture shows you a heated neck wrap and an eye mask, and the far right picture shows you a diffuser to diffuse essential oils to help the office smell better and have that calm feeling. So again, why a dental spa? Well, here's where we create value. This is a novel idea for patients, for most patients. It creates intrigue. They're like, what does that mean? I've never heard of that. And the word spa usually has good feelings. It's a place where people go to enjoy themselves and have pampering. So it really sets the patient up for understanding that the experience is going to be better than normal, better than the typical dental experience. And their comfort is going to be, at the forefront of that visit. And this will naturally attract people to your practice. There's a lot of people that like that spa element or that spa vibe. And so this is going to bring people your way. And I just want to disclaim here, it's not just pampering. We're really focusing on the psychological triggers. And that's where, unfortunately, the spa concept, I think, in dentistry has gotten a little bit watered down. So I want to just dive further into, those psychological triggers a little bit. So what does a dental spa mean for you from the clinical side of things? Well, it really just means that your practice is extremely focused on patient comfort and that your team is really going to create an incredible experience for patients. That's how you need to think about it. So you're going to make things like a root canal or an implant, things that people tend to, think are really scary or invasive procedures hinge on enjoyable with these techniques. And you're going to pamper patients, which is nice for them, but also is truly calming them down. And you're going to avoid sensory triggers for the patients. So you're going to be known as a dental office that's doing more than the ordinary. And really, what it's going to let the dentist do is focus on dentistry, which is what you probably want to do. So I'm going to dive more into just some different ideas for this. So in creating a space to relax, you're going to avoid those triggers that contribute to dental anxiety. On the left, we've got a picture of a dental chair. This dental chair happens to have heat and massage built into it. That's not, I don't think that's a necessity, but it's a nice touch, of course. A blanket is nice to be offered. That heated neck wrap there is shown again, and then a knee pillow is nice for just getting people comfortable in the chair and feeling cozy. The middle picture, of course, are some hot towels that can be offered at the end of the appointment to just freshen up. And then on the far right, some noise canceling headphones that the patient can tune into a show or some music to just serve as a distractor, but also drown out some of those negative noises. Some other examples, treatment rooms that don't feel as clinical. So you see on the far left, the colors are more neutral. It feels a little more homey. It's not just white and stark. The curtains just soften the look of the room. You can't really see it in this picture, but clutter-free counters and things. And then in the middle picture, I feel like it's a nice way to really build this niche out for a lot of the things that you do. So this is an example where you can offer a gift basket that you can put patients in a drawing each month if they're willing to write a review for you or check in. Just a little gift back is a nice touch, and again, it's got that spa feel, which you can build into silent auction baskets that you might put together to bring everything into that cohesive kind of brand, which is really nice for marketing opportunities. And then the far right, again, is the diffuser where you're diffusing oils to just help the office smell amazing. So a lot of times when I talk with providers and dentists about this idea, they ask me similar questions. So here it is, the frequently asked questions about this value that you can create for your practice. So who does all of these extras? The doctor's usually like, I don't have time for this. I don't want to build time into the schedule, and you don't need to. The extras really they're simple. They're when built in with some systems, which I can teach, are very efficient. And your auxiliary staff are doing these things. So it comes from the front office. Assistants and hygienists are really the ones doing the meat of this. And it doesn't take a lot of time to implement these things. So we're talking about minutes, literally. So you don't need to add time to your schedule. It really can run efficiently and go a long way, just these little things. I often get asked, what is the cost of offering amenities to patients? So what we typically recommend practices do is to offer this as a complimentary option for patients, because again, it's a way to set your office apart. You're going to attract patients this way. You're going to see the little bit you might charge for some of these like spa amenities really is insignificant to what you're going to gain in terms of those new patients and retention and things. So I recommend it being complimentary. And then just as an example of what does it look like for supplies. So for one doctor and two hygienists, you're looking at on the low end, $200 in supplies. If you want to go with just some basics, if you want to go higher end with, looking at nice headphones and towel warmers and things like that, we're looking at $1,000 in supply setup. That's just in setup. And then about every 6 months or so, there's certain things that are disposable that will wear over time, like those neck wraps and things that you'll, reinvest in to, get things up to speed. So about $50 every 6 months. But, really these are insignificant costs in what you can offer to patients to make the experience amazing in what you're going to gain in production and everything else. So, and I'll get further into that as well. And then I often get asked, how long does this take to get rolling? Well, if you allow me to help you with this. I love to really walk offices through this and meet them where they're at and help get them going. It can take as little as 3 months to see actually the patients start rolling in. If you get my do-it-yourself package where you're basically getting all of the lists and all the supplies you'll need and the systems written out for you, and you train your staff on your own, it can be about 6 months if you're doing it on your own. And I'll just say that when we came up with this concept 5 years ago, I would say it took us about 2 years to really perfect it, because if you don't have the systems and you don't know what products to get and you don't know how to build it in, you're really just doing a lot of trial and error, and that takes a lot of time. And so the way that I've set it up is that an office can really get this going very quickly so that they can see that return on their investment. So sometimes when you introduce a new idea, there's some barriers, and I like to address those right off the gates, because I think that this can be so amazing, but sometimes our pre-existing thoughts can get in the way. So I like this quote because it's so true. We cannot become, oh, I lost it. I'm sorry. We cannot become what we need to be by remaining what we are. So the first thing is really it's a mindset shift. So I remember when I first presented this idea to my husband, he was like, I don't want my office to become fluffy and to not feel like a dental office. I still want to really focus on doing great dentistry. And so I want to assure you the focus is still absolutely on dentistry. No logo changes are needed. We've not changed the name of our practice. We have not changed the look of our logo, anything. You don't need to do that. It really becomes a part of your brand and your identity with your website, with your social media, with how you're, caring for patients when they're with you. And so you don't need to change anything if you don't want from the logo perspective. Really, in terms of that spa vibe, you don't need to do a renovation. Our office is very old, and so there are a lot of little things that we did to update things and to make it feel more spa-like. It's a lot of simple decor changes, not a whole renovation to worry about. And really, what it should be in your mind is just an innovative way to stand out, differentiate, and grow your practice. And you're going to create value to retain your existing patients, and of course, like I said, attract those new patients. And these are really small things that are going to yield huge impacts. Another barrier for some can be time. So that is why I've perfected these strategies to help offices get the ball rolling on this right away. And again, you're not adding time to the schedule. It's very efficient. And I can provide assistance with, regard to your team and getting things implemented. So time really, we can work with time. Team cooperation and consistency. Sometimes this is a concern for doctors. So that is why I have built in step-by-step procedures for implementing this, because I had to get our team on board with this. And I offer video training as well, because I know that, to read something or to hear something sometimes it helps to have it in multiple modalities. So I also collected tips from our team, and I asked them, what did you think when we first brought this idea? What were some things that you maybe thought that were going to be problematic and how we worked around that, just to get their perspective from the assistant side, from the front office side, from the hygiene side, so that you have all that at your fingertips. And just know that this chart on the right I like, because there's always a flow to new ideas and bringing some change into your practice. And so that forming and storming phase can be somewhat uncomfortable sometimes, but with some help, with some team training, getting everyone on board, that norming phase and really getting into performing can be really done quickly. And I'm here to help you through that if you need it. So another barrier I hear sometimes is that we tried like a spa menu and it didn't really work, or we tried the hot towels and we didn't keep up with it. It wasn't really working. And when I hear that, almost always I find that there was just little things that the office tried to do to dabble into this idea, and they didn't have systems in place, and they didn't change the whole culture and brand and identity into doing all of the things. And that's, I think, where those attempts fail, because once it becomes your office's identity, and once you're able to do all of these things that wow patients on such a new level, it starts to just become organically reinforcing. You will see more patients coming in because of it, and you will have awesome reviews about it from patients. And so if you can share that amongst your team in those morning meetings about, wow, this person just said this person came in and said that, this person's coming to us because of this, it becomes a no-brainer in terms of, well, should I do this or should I not? Should I be consistent or should I not? Because it will transform your practice and it will become who you are. And then it just is what it is. I don't know if anyone that's listening does any yoga, but I do love to practice yoga. And if you're not familiar with yoga, the teacher always starts off with asking you to think about, what is your intention? Why are you here on your mat today? And what are you hoping to gain? And if your office's intention is to go above and beyond to provide an amazing experience for patients and to help calm them and through an anxiety-ridden visit, that is what you will do. And your team will have the tools to do it. That's the other thing. A lot of offices say, well, we're gentle, we really make sure patients are comfortable. But what are they really doing to address those sensitivities that so many people have? This gives your team the tools to really make an impact in that area. So what are the results? Well, relaxed patients accept more treatment. They more readily refer friends and family. They are more loyal, and they're easier to do treatment on and even get numb. And this was something that actually came as a surprise to me. I knew that by putting these systems in place that it would help patients be more comfortable, that it would help them to like coming to their appointments more. But what I didn't realize was that from my husband's point of view, from the clinical perspective, it would actually be easier for him to just get in there and do dentistry. And what he said was that people are just more open, right? When we get nervous and when we're uptight, we close our body off, literally, or our shoulders get hunched, our mouths tend to be more, locked and rigid, and we just aren't able to open up as much for you to be able to get in there and do that dentistry. So it really can make an impact on the clinical side of things too, from it just making your life easier to actually do the treatment you need to get done. And then of course, results are explosion of new patients and the retention of existing patients because your office becomes the place to go. And what I love about this is you're not just getting new patients. You're not getting those patients that are coming in because you're offering a new patient discount. You're attracting ideal patients. Because you are elevating the patient experience, you're attracting patients that value quality dentistry. You're attracting patients that are aesthetically driven. So they're looking at, fixing the social six. They're looking at whitening. They might be wanting Botox or Juvederm treatments. They're just looking at higher end dentistry. And because these patients tend to be more affluent, you're going to have higher case acceptance and just do, like I said, higher end dentistry. You're also going to attract patients that have put off care. You're going to attract patients that have been so anxious about the dental experience that they just have stopped going. And so what that's going to result in is large cases, which obviously cost a lot. And conscious sedation is an option. Like for us in our practice, my husband is trained in conscious sedation, and a lot of dentists are. And he was actually worried that this would attract people that were so anxious that they all needed to be sedated. And he's like, I really don't want a practice full of that. That can be a headache. But what we found is we're not actually utilizing this option very much because of all the things that we're doing to help calm them down. They don't need it. And so you're still able to really get in to work on those people that are highly anxious and have those large treatment needs. And of course, all of that yields into higher production. So I'm just going to give you some stats from our office because I am very comfortable sharing them. We have quadrupled our new patient monthly averages. We have increased our yearly production by over $400,000 consistently. We've received awards as the best dental practice in our community 4 years in a row now, and we have a full schedule. And so what's beautiful about that is if somebody has the flu or somebody can't make it because of the weather, which we sometimes have those issues in Wisconsin, we have a large waiting list of people that are wanting to get in sooner. And so we rarely have a hole in our schedule that we can't fill. And so that obviously helps production in a huge way. We have a calmer workplace. And this is, again, kind of a residual thing that I didn't necessarily anticipate or wasn't the end goal. I was really focused on the patient comfort. But our staff report being more calm because they're helping calm people, and they're more, their work is more enjoyable because they're not working on patients that are disliking being there or that are anxious about being there. So we really have a good cohesive thing going, and we have not had any staff members leave us since we've put this into place because we've now become that place to be, right, for patients and for our team. And now our patient retention is much greater than 85%. That's kind of where we were before we were putting these strategies in place. And now we really just don't see people leave. When people leave, we're like, what are they? Where are they going? Where are they moving? Because literally, that's what it is. And we're getting phone calls every day with patients switching to our office. So it's definitely a great thing. New challenges to work through in terms of managing how many new patients we can handle a month and things like that. But those are challenges that I definitely welcome any day. So I love this quote because I really think it summarizes what we've talked about here today. It states, some entrepreneurs think, how can I make a lot of money? But the better way is to think, how can I make people's lives a lot better? If you get that right, the money will come. So I thank you so much for joining me today. It is truly my mission to help offices just do dentistry better. I've worked really hard to perfect all these systems and to help put these ideas into place for offices in an efficient and seamless way. And so if you're interested at all, I would love to talk with you further about what that might look like for your office and to help discover ways to work around some of your pain points. I did have a couple of questions while we were on today, so I just wanted to address those. If you have a few more minutes, stick around. But if you do need to go, I do respect that you might need to go somewhere. My contact information is there on the screen. You can also find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and then also my website's listed there too. So feel free to contact me in any way, shape, or form. And then, okay, here's a couple of questions. So let's see. Can you work with practices anywhere, or do you just work with practices in Wisconsin? That is a great question. I can work with practices across the nation. There's a couple different options. I can work virtually, which is really great. We can work via video or over the phone, a lot of email, but I can also visit your practice in person as well, if that is something that you're interested in. Sometimes it's nice to actually be physically there to help onboard the team. And so those are both options. The other option is to, of course, just get all of the information and put it into place on your own. You don't need to involve me in any way if you want to choose that option, but I am available for people that are outside of Wisconsin. So great question. And then one other question was, how can I get my team on board with this concept? I like it, but I find that training time is so difficult. So I've heard that quite a few times actually. And so I'm actually in the process of working on a kind of a workbook series that would walk teams through the training. So what I would offer would be like a webinar each week that could be viewed at a later time if it didn't work scheduling wise and whatnot, but it would put the content in smaller doses. It would help them to kind of digest the systems in smaller increments with spots to be able to take notes and put feedback and whatnot in there. And I think that will be a great option for offices that just can't find that, chunk of time to really tackle that training piece. So if you are interested in that, it should be ready within the next couple of weeks. So definitely reach out to me and I can get you that information if you're interested. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope that you found it to be informational, and I'd love to be in touch if you have any questions. Take care.